Let's talk about Brutal and Cunning and the other 40k releases of the week, everything that we know about them, which ones are looking the most popular according to hobbyists, and whether Brutal and Cunning is a good deal. Hello and welcome back to Vespids Tactics, where today I thought we'd talk through the 40k releases of the week. The box set's going up for pre-order on Saturday, along with a bunch of data from some surveys to shed a bit more light as to what people are finding good or bad. I guess this one is the last major 40k release before Christmas. Pre-orders going live on Saturday the 7th of December, so full release in stores on Saturday the 21st, hopefully meaning that most people should get their things this side of Christmas, though it's maybe pushing it a little bit on the tight side. The release is mainly a kill team one, though given the amount of units that are either returning or being newly released to 40k, I think it's going to have quite a lot of interest from 40k players. There's the big kill team Brutal and Cunning one with Rattlings versus Tank Busters, the Vespids Terrain set being sold individually from kill team Hivestorm, Lieutenant Titus, and then 12 kill teams being released individually. Lots of 40k units that have basically been unable to be bought for quite a long time returning, which might have some people interested. Plus the individual releases for the Vespids and the Aquilons if you didn't want to get the big Hivestorm box sets. Really quite a lot of stuff going on, plus there's Dark Mechanicum for Legions Imperialis, a special edition of the Infinite and Divine book, and White Dwarf 507. As ever, if you were looking to pick up any of these and save a bit of money when doing so, there's the channel's affiliate discount retailers links down in the video description. They have anywhere between 10 and 20% off versus Games Workshop store prices, depending on where you are around the world. There's Element Games for 15 to 20% off in the UK, Wargame Portal for 15% in the USA, Fenris Workshop for 10 in Canada, Gap Games for 20 in Australia, and Tash and Geldeep for 16 in the EU and Germany. As ever, a big thank you to anyone supporting the channel via those links, if you do happen to be picking something up anyway. First up, I'm focusing on Brutal and Cunning. One of the first questions is usually whether or not it's going to sell out dead fast versus other 40k box sets, and whether or not you're going to be able to pick one of these up even if you want to. These one and done kill team versus box sets have generally had a very bad record with that in the past. For the last few in the previous edition of Kill Team, they just really didn't make that many of Nightmare, Salvation or Termination, and plenty of those sold out near instantly, even faster at discounters. The Hivestorm box and starter set both had a fair bit more supply, but they fall under a bit of a different pattern really, being a launch box and a more sort of general starter set for the game as opposed to a limited one. So I've yet to see whether or not Games Workshop is going to make enough of these ones. When asking people whether or not they think it's going to sell out dead fast, people were really quite split. Around about half of people think that it will be gone in their location within a day, a fair few thinking within a few hours, and half of people thinking it's going to be around for a week or longer. I think it is an interesting one. These boxes tend to have kind of slightly more niche appeal, given that you both have to be collecting one of the factions, and then wanting that unit enough that you'd buy the entire box set, including the other one, or buying it for Kill Team of course. But in general, Games Workshop just seems to have made far fewer of them versus other 40k discount sets in the past. Just anecdotally, I've heard that there's a few more of them going around compared with some of the other ones. Wargame Portal in the USA confirmed that they'll have at least a somewhat good number of them, though it really can vary quite a lot on discount stores around the world, both with how many they ask for and then how many Games Workshop decides to actually give them. In any case, if you're absolutely certain that you want the box set, it's probably worth being at least fairly early, just in case it does happen to be one of Games Workshop's very fast sellout ones. Here are the pre-order times at those stores: around midnight Eastern time at Wargame Portal and Fenris Workshop, 10 or 11 AM in the UK and EU, and midday Australian Eastern time for Gap Games. If they do sell out, I'd first check out other discount retailers and then fall back to Games Workshop's own web store, where they often tend to linger a bit longer because it's the same thing being sold at a higher price. While on the subject of Brutal and Cunning though, the pricing for this one is £85, €110 or $140, so it's a little bit cheaper than Kill Team Termination and some of the previous sets, which maybe isn't the worst news in the world given that most Kill Team releases seem to have been a bit more expensive this time around in the new edition of it. I guess the reason for this one might be that the Tank Busters only have 6 models in a squad rather than the more normal 10, or perhaps kind of similar for the Rattling models. Despite being fun things, they're still absolutely tiny miniatures. I'm sure their eventual solo releases won't be priced all that much lower than the other Kill Team sets that have come out, but I'd expect at least one or maybe both of them to be a little cheaper for those reasons. In any case, in the box you get the 6 Tank Busters with the 2 Bomb Squigs, 10 Rattlings and their Battle Mutt, cards and tokens for playing with them, and the Kill Team rule section, and those Bunker Wall terrain pieces, where there's a scenario in the box about the Rattlings trying to hold it off against the Tank Busters. For the miniatures themselves, they were both squads that really needed updates for 40k, so both good to see. The Tank Busters have 6 of these here, and they have options for both range and melee weapons now, when previously they tended to be more rocket focused. though had a slightly sad datasheet where they were very equipment locked with only the things that came in their Finecast kit. The miniatures went down pretty well in any case, fairly heavily armoured serious gits, and I said that each one of them can be built either 2 or 3 different ways, so a good chance for quite a lot of war gear options and kill team specialists. I'll certainly be interested to see their new datasheets. There will be a 40k one dropping at some point. I wouldn't be too surprised if that's sometime next week. There was also a preview article on the Tank Busters this week which gave us a few more clues. Interestingly, the lore was that this Wrecker Crew kill team is supposedly an alliance between tank commanders with the rockets and things and Breaker Boys, which I guess are the ones with the melee weapons, and interesting that they give them different names here. It makes me wonder whether or not the Breaker Boys will have a different datasheet, maybe having a unit of Tank Busters with ranged weapons and rockets, and a unit of Breaker Boys with heavy melee weapons. Apparently the standard armament for them is the Smash Hammer, and it said that you could take 5 of them along with the unit knob, so at least from that it does sound like a full melee loadout could be possible. Games Workshop showcased a bunch of work from community painters as well as the rocket pistol and axe loadout that he has. You can also take twin rocket pistols, so it looks like that loadout's still a thing. Otherwise, the Ratlings were pretty well received as well, 10 models and a battle mutt, plus a few little explosive markers as well. They're basically space hobbits with snipers, with a fair bit of fun factor, and again they'll need a new datasheet to represent the fact that you can take a bigger squad of them. They've also got a new tank stopper rifle, which I wouldn't be too surprised to see some sort of anti-keywords on, and I wonder whether they'll have some sort of explosive rule if people try to charge them. That seems like it could be a good representation for those tripwires and things. In any case, for the box set as a whole, it seems that the pricing of it relative to the kill team sets is likely to represent around about the combined cost of the 2 units put together when they're released individually. So it's basically you buy the 2 kill teams and then get the bunker wall terrain kind of included as a freebie. At least I feel like that's how the deal will look in hindsight. When I asked you guys to rate it as a deal, you put it kind of middle of the road, 3.1 stars out of 5. Basically putting it in line with sort of middling combat patrol boxes like Necrons or Orcs. Certainly not one of 40k's most favoured discount box sets out there, but also a fair bit better than plenty of the less favoured ones. This was a similar sort of rating as what people gave to Hivestorm and the Blood Angels army set as well, which I'd probably argue were better deals than this myself. Hivestorm cost a lot more, but you got a lot more terrain in it, and the Blood Angels one I feel like was quite a good deal for what you got, at least relative to Games Workshop, but a lot of it was basically intercessors, and I think that rubbed people up the wrong way a bit. When asking people whether or not they intended to pick up Brutal and Cunning, it is as expected at least fairly niche in 40k, given that you'd want to be collecting one of those armies or into Kill Team. Looks like 16% of people said that they were planning to buy it, which is a bit less than say Hivestorm, where it was more like 19%. But still I feel like the difference between those isn't actually enormous, and Hivestorm was one of the more popular box set releases of the year. When I ranked the 40k discount kits by popularity and how many people had bought, that one was the one that people said that they bought the most of. Basically it looks like it's somewhat popular, but not as much as Hivestorm or the Kill Team starter set box, where there were quite a few people keen to get their hands on those Death Guard. Finally for Brutal and Cunning, it looks like people rate the Tank Busters over the Ratlings as the cooler half of the box. Definitely not unanimous, but the Tank Busters got 61% of the vote and the Ratlings 39%. I do think they did well, the new Tank Buster sculpts. I feel like Ratlings maybe have just a little bit more niche appeal. Some people really quite enjoying their sort of slightly quirky halflings in space sort of vibe, other people a bit less so. I don't feel like they're necessarily gelled perfectly with literally every single Imperial Guard army out there, style-wise. They definitely feel at opposite sort of ends of the spectrum to Krieg, for example. Otherwise, we've got the other Kill Team solo releases, both the newer ones in the Aquilons and Vespid and all the reboxed ones. The Aquilons and Vespid are £42.50, €55 or $65, similar to the price of the Kazakin. They're the ones that came out in Hivestorm not so very long ago, and both sets of models really quite well received. The Aquilons have certainly been dominating competitive lists for the Guard recently, though I'm sure that's set to change whenever the balanced data slate drops, and the Vespid Stingwings are maybe a little bit more niche in application, tending to be good for small 5-man units of them, more so than the 10-man squad with the special weapons for 40k unfortunately. In general the models were really quite well liked though. It looks like for sales wise the Aquilons have beat out the Vespid by a little bit. 165 people saying they wanted to pick up Tempestus Aquilons, only 123 of the Vespid, but that seems like quite good numbers on both sides. That's comparing to like 220 for the Brutal and Cunning box set. Otherwise for Kill Team, there's all the reboxed ones. These ones are the Sisters Novitiate, Navy Breachers, Hyrotech Circle for the Necrons, Hearthkin Salvagers, Hand of the Archon for the Drukari, the Felgor Ravager Beastmen, the Kroots Farstalker Kimband, the Deathcore Veteran Infantry, the Exaction Squad, and the Blades of Cain Striking Scorpions. For their different armies, they've all been unavailable to buy for a good few months around the Kill Team release, so I'm sure there'll be certain collectors out there who've been waiting to add some of these to their collection. Now they're back, and unfortunately the prices have gone up a little bit versus the previous edition of Kill Team. That did seem to be the trend of the other two release waves that they had coming out. In general, for the most part, prices seem to have gone up somewhere in the region of around $5 or so, though it does vary a little bit from kit to kit, and they also have their Kill Team data cards releasing as well. They're not included in the box and are things to buy separately if you wanted them. Price-wise, the vast majority of them are the same price as the Titus Aquilons and the Vespids Stingwings, £42.50, €55 or $65 US. The Hand of the Archon's a little bit cheaper at $60, though the Cavalite Warriors is a kit that they sell for far less. Some of the kits I'm sure will be really quite sought after. Things like the Navy Breachers have been off sale for a while and they're quite a core unit to the Agents of the Imperium, and the Sisters Novitiate is a useful kit as well, which can be quite good for converting Sororitas characters. Otherwise, for the pricier ones, the Hierotech Circle is $75 or £46. This one basically acts as a sort of mini discount kit for the Necrons, as you essentially save $7 if you wanted to buy Immortals plus a Cryptek, plus you get the upgrade sprue thrown in, which you could use to represent certain other characters, maybe a Royal Warden for the jumped up Immortal, or a Plasmancer or something for the Cryptek Assistant. Then the Striking Scorpions are the most expensive of them, $80, £47.50 or €62.50. That seems to be the common price for kill teams that are basically made up of 2 5-man squads put together in the same box, similar to how we've had for the Drukhari Mandrakes and the Space Marine Scouts. Obviously more expensive for infantry models, but at the same time, if Games Workshop decided to sell them as individual box sets of 5, as I'd guess they probably will move to in the far future, you'd be paying massively more per model. For example, the Howling Banshees are $62.50 for 5 of them. So on top of that, you're basically getting the next 5 of them for essentially $18 above that for the Striking Scorpions. It still seems like the preferable way that they could sell them out of the two at this point. I was interested to see which of these ones were the most popular kill teams, and it does seem that out of these, they've all got a bit of love with people looking to pick them up, but in particular, the Death Corps Veteran Infantry Squad is just in massively more demand than any of the rest. About 3 times the amount of people want to get a set of them versus the rest. I guess that would have been kind of predictable really, given that we've got the Death Corps of Krieg army range on the way. It doesn't look like there's any more normal line infantry coming, so it looks like the veteran squad will still be the way that you represent them, and as a result, lots of people are very keen to get their hands on some Kriegsmen early, maybe working quite well with the launch box as well, as it means that you could get a bunch of these guys painted up, and then go on to get and paint up the launch box when it comes out if you want to. Otherwise, for popular ones, it looks like the Navy Breachers, Blades of Cain Striking Scorpions, the Arbites Exaction Squad, and the Sisters Novitiate are the next most popular. Besides the Scorpions, most of the other Xenos ones having a little bit more limited appeal. Finally, we've got the 2 sets that didn't have their pricing shared, though I guess it won't be too long till we know about them. I'm guessing that these are probably going to be online only, or also having an in-store offering in Titus's case. There's Lieutenant Titus finally coming out as an individual model release, likely pricing somewhere around their character prices of £26, €34 or $42. It could both be a little bit higher or lower than that depending on what they go for though. He's another one of the popular releases of the weekend, around 150 people looking to pick him up, so in the sort of same popularity region as the Aquilons and the Stingwings. They do have that in-store promotion as well, where if you can buy them at a Warhammer store, they give you a £10 voucher that's valid after Christmas. Games Workshop no doubt looking to convert some Space Marine hype into hobbyists. Otherwise, there's the Killzone Volkers terrain. That one's less popular, with 43 people looking to pick that up. Again, that's likely going to be the web store only, and my guess would be that it could be £75, $125 or €100 based on the other kill zones. That's the price of the Beta Decima and the Gallo Dart ones. I think it's unlikely to be less than that, though I wouldn't rule out it being more. I feel like perhaps a lot of people who wanted this terrain probably got it from the Hivestorm box set, which might limit the appeal of it just a little bit. In any case though, let me know your thoughts on the upcoming releases. Would you be tempted to get Brutal and Cunning or not? Or if you want one of the units to hold off until the individual releases? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments as to what you might be picking up, if anything, and why. As mentioned, if you did happen to be picking things up anyway, and you wanted to support the channel on some purchases, feel free to check out the discount retailers linked in the video description. They'll be going live at these times, and fingers crossed Games Workshop has made enough of the things this time. In any case though, I'll leave that there for this one. I'm sure I'll be back to talk Deathwatch things tomorrow. And feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more like this. I do tend to keep up with Games Workshop's news and releases, with both model releases and rules reveals. Finally, as well as discount links, you can also check out the channel's Patreon page if you want to support. That has a few advantages, including seeing certain videos early, occasional votes to see what comes next, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways, so feel free to check that out if that's of any interest. But in any case though, an absolutely massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.